You know, when we talk about climate change, we're usually looking to the future, thinking about rising seas, new storms, all the challenges ahead. But what if some of the biggest dangers aren't new at all? This explainer, based on the UN's Frontiers 2025 report, is all about the surprising threats our warming planet is waking up from the past. Okay, let's really dig into this idea because it's a fascinating and, frankly, unsettling one. The point is, climate change isn't just creating new problems. It's acting like a planetary alarm clock, waking up dangers we thought were safely buried, gone for good. All right, so our first stop is something we're all seeing more of, flooding. We know floods are getting worse, more frequent. But what we don't always see is what's hidden inside those floodwaters, the chemical ghosts of our own industrial past. So here's the deal. Riverbeds and floodplains, they're kind of like a geological scrapbook. For centuries, they've been collecting all this pollution, from mining, from factories, from farms. It all settles into the sediment, layer by layer, getting trapped down there. But now, with these new extreme floods, those layers are getting ripped right open. And what's being unleashed is, well, it's a whole chemical cocktail. We're talking about stuff like lead, a potent neurotoxin from old paint and gasoline. Then you've got PCBs, these industrial chemicals used in electronics that we now know can cause cancer. And of course, old pesticides like DDT that mess with our hormones and stick around for decades. This isn't just a little bit of residue, it's a serious dose of pollution getting dumped back into our environment. And look, this is not just a theory. It's already happening all over the planet. In Germany, a huge flood on the Elbe River caused the concentration of a banned pesticide in fish to shoot up by more than 20 times. In Pakistan, massive floods in 2010 washed away thousands of tons of old pesticides. Even in France, mines that have been closed for half a century are still leaching heavy metals every time there's a big flood. Our industrial past is literally coming back to haunt us. So we've seen the chemical mess hiding in the mud. Now let's switch gears and talk about something even more primal. Ancient life, locked away in ice. We're moving from our own industrial history to the planet's deep past. And believe me, the stakes are about to get a whole lot higher. 48,500. Just take a look at that number. What is it? That's the age in years of viruses that scientists have actually revived after they were frozen in Siberian permafrost. Yeah, we're talking about organisms that have been dormant since woolly mammoths were roaming the Earth, and now they're waking up. This line from the UN report really nails it. The cryosphere, that's just the fancy word for all the frozen parts of our planet, it's thawing at a shocking speed. And as it melts, it's not just releasing water, it's releasing life. Ancient bacteria, viruses, and fungi are coming back online and getting reintroduced to a world that hasn't seen them for tens of thousands of years. And to get a sense of the scale here, you have to understand permafrost. It's not just a sheet of ice. It's this huge frozen layer of soil and organic material that covers about a quarter of the northern hemisphere. It's a massive biological time capsule. And right now, projections show that anywhere from a quarter to over 2/3 of the stuff near the surface could thaw by 2100. So what is actually crawling out of this thaw? Well, we've already had a few previews. Back in 2016, there was an anthrax outbreak in Siberia that killed thousands of reindeer, and it was traced back to a thawing reindeer carcass. Scientists have also brought a 46,000-year-old roundworm back to life. But maybe the biggest wildcard is something called genome recycling. That's when these ancient microbes, which might have naturally evolved resistance to antibiotics, could pass those resistance genes to modern germs, potentially creating terrifying new superbugs. So let's just recap. We've got two completely different kinds of threats here. On one side, you have our chemical ghosts, man-made, toxic stuff being stirred up by floods. On the other, you have frozen microbes, natural, ancient, and potentially dangerous life being reactivated by the thaw. They have different origins, but they share one single trigger. And that trigger, of course, is our warming planet. I mean, just look at the scale of this ice loss. From 2002 to 2023, Greenland lost an average of 269 gigatons of ice every single year. Antarctica lost 142. This colossal melt is the engine driving everything. It's causing the bigger floods that release the chemical ghosts, and it's thawing the permafrost that's opening that frozen Pandora's box. All of this brings us to a really stark new reality. When it comes to these re-emerging threats, we're kind of past the point of just prevention. We are now officially in an era of risk management. There's this one line in the report that it really hits you. By failing to avoid the unmanageable, we now must manage the unavoidable. It perfectly captures where we are. Because we didn't act sooner, some of these consequences are now baked in. That planetary alarm clock has already rung, and now we have to deal with whatever woke up. So what does managing the unavoidable even look like? Well, the report gives us a pretty clear roadmap. First, we have to assess the risk. We need to map out exactly what hazards are hiding in our soil and our permafrost. Second, we have to monitor. We need better public health surveillance to catch these threats the moment they emerge. Third, we need to actively manage the problem with things like better flood defenses and actually cleaning up old toxic sites. And finally, and this is a fascinating one, we have to preserve these ancient microbes in biobanks so we can study them and understand our planet's history before they're gone for good. Look, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. The past isn't really in the past anymore. Our old industrial waste, ancient diseases, the very building blocks of life we forgot about, climate change is dredging it all back up to the surface. The lines between past, present, and future are getting very, very blurry. And that really just leaves us with one last chilling thought. We've talked about toxic sludge and ancient viruses, but as we keep pushing our planet's systems into uncharted territory, what else have we forgotten about that might just be waiting for its wake-up call?